Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump suggested Thursday that the U.S. is pointedly freezing Canada out of North American Free Trade Agreement negotiations. Trump's negotiators have been meeting with Mexican negotiators in Washington over the past 2 weeks. Senior officials from all three countries have said the U.S. has chosen the two-way talks for temporary practical reasons, not to send a message to Canada. U.S. President Donald Trump told the televised meeting of his cabinet Thursday that the U.S. is not negotiating with Canada right now, in ongoing talks about the North American Free Trade Agreement. "We'll see how that works out. It'll only work out to our favor," he added. Oliver Contreras, Getty Images. But Trump, who has repeatedly railed against Canadian dairy tariffs and complained about Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, suggested otherwise. "We're not negotiating with Canada right now. Their tariffs are too high, their barriers are too strong, so we're not even talking to them right now," Trump said at a televised cabinet meeting. "We'll see how that works out. It'll only work out to our favor." Adam Austin, spokesperson for Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland, disputed Trump's claim that the U.S. is not talking to Canada at all. Article continued below. Minister Freeland, Ambassador David McNaughton and the Canadian negotiating team are in regular contact with their counterparts, and we look forward to continuing these important discussions in the coming weeks, Austin said. Austin would not provide specifics about recent communication. Trump's explanation for Canada's exclusion differed from the one offered 2 weeks ago by one of his top officials. U.S. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said in late July that the administration was focusing on Mexico because there were more difficult issues to resolve with Mexico than there were with Canada. "Mexico is, intellectually, the more complicated of the two, so if we can solve that, we should be able to fill in with Canada," Ross said. Trump spoke on the first anniversary of the launch of the NAFTA renegotiation. He has soured on Canada in recent months, apparently angry at Trudeau's criticism of the tariffs he imposed on Canadian steel and aluminum. Trump also complained Thursday about Canadian wood exports, saying, "Canada is charging us a lot of money to bring their timber down into our country. It's so ridiculous." Trump has imposed tariffs on Canadian softwood, raising the price for Americans. Trump complained repeatedly about Canada's bargaining tactics even before he became merged with Trudeau, calling Canada brutal, very spoiled, and very difficult. He wrote on Twitter on Friday, "Deal with Mexico is coming along nicely. Auto workers and farmers must be taken care of or there will be no deal. New president of Mexico has been an absolute gentleman. Canada must wait. Their tariffs and trade barriers are far too high. We'll tax cars if we can't make a deal." Article continued below. Talks between the U.S. and Mexico appear to be focusing on the complicated issue of automotive manufacturing, on which Canada is largely in agreement with current U.S. proposals, but Mexico is not. The U.S. deal with Mexico would be a kind of sub-deal that would be folded into the larger NAFTA negotiations. Despite Trump's musings about splitting up NAFTA itself into two separate trade pacts, U.S. officials continue to work toward an updated three-way accord. Mexican officials have said that they are not discussing the remaining issues on which Canada has major disagreements with the U.S. Those include U.S. proposals for dramatic changes to how trade disputes are resolved and for a sunset clause that would automatically terminate the agreement in 5 years if all three countries did not agree to it again. U.S. reports have suggested that the U.S. and Mexico are closing in on a sub-deal, though Mexico's economy ministers said Wednesday that they may not get it done by the end of August. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer told Trump on Thursday that he hoped for a breakthrough in the next several days, but he said there were difficult issues remaining. Trump advised him not to make a deal if there was not a true breakthrough. He said NAFTA is lousy, and the U.S. has much better alternatives than that. Lighthizer countered that the best alternative is probably to make a good deal, to which Trump said, "Okay." Canadian officials have said Canada will rejoin the talks as soon as the U.S. resolves its issues with Mexico. And they have said that they are supportive of the U.S.-Mexico talks, since they view the automotive issue as the key to a deal. There are still some bilateral issues between Canada and the U.S. and between the U.S. and Mexico that need to be resolved outside of autos, but if the auto thing gets resolved, then I think we are well on our way to a successful modernization, McNaughton told BNN Bloomberg last week. Daniel Dale is the Star's Washington bureau chief. He covers U.S. politics and current affairs. Follow him on Twitter, @Dale8.